Greetings, guitar fanatics. You know, one of the things I hear all the time from students is I spend all this time learning to play scales, and when I try to play a solo, it just sounds like scales. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you've learned some scales, but you're still struggling getting started with improvising, it's not because you've got too little information. It's probably because you're trying to deal with too much information. You'd actually benefit by putting some limitations on yourself. So in this video, we're going to take scale patterns, we're going to throw them in the dumpster, and I'm going to show you a great way to start playing awesome blues licks by concentrating on 2 strings, 4 notes at a time. That's what we're going to do. Please hit the like, the subscribe, and let's get started playing some music. So for this video, we're going to be playing over a minor blues progression in D minor. So we're going to be working with the chords D minor, G minor, and A minor. Now the go-to scale for that type of chord progression would typically be D minor pentatonic. And you know, when I just say the words D minor pentatonic, I bet it conjures up 5 box patterns that span the strings and cover the neck. You know, and we've all spent loads of time learning those patterns until our back hurts and our fingers are bleeding. But if you listen to great blues guitarists, that's not the way they play. They don't play in scales, they play in much shorter, more succinct licks. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take those 5 box pentatonic patterns and we're going to chop them up into pieces. We're going to concentrate today on just 2 strings at a time. And today it's going to be the B string and the high E string. Now, not only are we going to limit ourselves to those 2 strings, we're going to limit ourselves to 4 notes at a time on those strings. We're going to create 4-note cells that are going to correspond with each of the pentatonic positions on the top 2 strings. We're going to build blues licks with just those notes, and those limitations, we're going to free up our brains, and it's going to let our creativity come to the front and run wild. So let's take a look at these 4-note cells that I'm talking about. If we start up at the 10th position where we would have D minor pentatonic pattern 1, on the top 2 strings, we would be playing frets 10 and 13 on both strings. That would give us the notes A, C, D, and F. Now, the 1 chord of a D minor blues progression would be D minor. And we would have the notes D, F, and A. Well, check this out. In this little 4-note cell, we've got the notes D, F, and A. So just in those 4 notes, we've got the chord tones of D minor covered. Now, if we wanted to make our rhythm sound a little cooler and we wanted to play D minor 7 instead of a plain Jane D minor, we would then have the notes D, F, A, and C. Well, looky here, down in our 4-note cell, we've got D, F, A, and C. So I bet you've played this pattern 1,000 times and you never realized that you were playing a D minor 7 arpeggio. So if we just use those 4 notes, we've got that 1 chord covered, and if we were to work in some slides and bends, it would be really easy to come up with licks like this. I'm going to play a little bit over D minor chord, and we'll see what kind of things we can come up with. So cool, what's next? Well, let's move up to D minor pentatonic, the shape that would be pattern 2. We're going to be at the 11th and 13th frets on the B and E string. That would give us the notes C, D, F, and G. Now, the 4 chord of a blues in D minor, that would be G minor, and we would have the notes G, B flat, and D. So here we've got a D and a G in our little 4-note cell, the second pattern or second cell, and so we'd have 2 of our chord tones covered. So if we decided to spice up our rhythms a little bit and play G minor 7, that chord has the notes G, B flat, D, and F, and our cell number 2 has an F, a G, and a D in addition to a C note, so that gives us 3 of the 4 chord tones of G minor 7. So this little cell would work really nicely against the 4 chord of our minor blues. So I'm going to play over the 4 chord G minor 7, going back to the 1 chord D minor 7 a couple of times. Let's see what we can come up using cell number 2 over the 4 chord and then moving back to cell number 1 over our 1 chord. Check it out. Sounds like the blues to me, and I hope you're getting the idea that by limiting ourselves to just a few notes, we can concentrate on making those notes sound as good as possible. Let's move on to cell number 3. Cell number 3, we're going to be up at the 15th fret, and we're going to be playing frets 15 and 18 on the B string. We've got frets 15 and 17 on the high E, so that would be notes D, F, G, and A. Now, if we move on to our 5 chord in our minor blues, we would be at A minor in the key of D minor. So since we've got the notes D, F, and G and A, we'd only have 1 chord tone there. But if we change to A minor 7, that introduces a G note, so then we'd have 2 chord tones. And we can still play some really cool sounding lines over that 5 chord with this particular cell. We could play something like this, for instance. So I'm going to play a little bit over A minor 7, G minor 7, and D minor 7. And I'm going to use cell 3 over the A minor 7, cell 2 over the G minor 7, cell 1 over that D minor 7. I'm going to introduce some slides and some bends into things to spice things up a little bit. Now let's see what we can come up with. All right, let's dig it. I like it. So there are 2 more cells that we have to go through. The next one, we would be up at the 17th fret. We would be playing frets 18 and 20 on the B string. We would be playing frets 17 and 20 on our high E string. So that would give us the notes F, G, A, and C. Now, I'm going to refer to this as the universal cell because those notes work particularly well over all 3 chords. So over our D minor 7, we would hit 3 of the chord tones with F, A, and C. Over G minor 7, we'd hit 2 of our chord tones with F and G. And over our A minor 7, we would hit 3 chord tones with G and A and C. So here is the notes of the cell played against each of the chords. So if we have A minor 7, G minor 7, and D minor 7. So this pattern is incredibly useful. I'm going to play over our 3 main chords, and I'm also going to throw in an A7 plus 9 in the turnaround to let you see how this will also work over that chord. Here we go. I'm going to play through it a couple of times. Let's see what we can come up with. All right, so we've got one more 4-note cell, and that's cell number 5. We're going to play it at frets 8 and 10 of our B and E strings, so that would give us the notes G, A, C, and D. This is another super useful cell because it's got multiple chord tones of each of our chords, even that dominant 5 chord, that A7 plus 9. You can hear how well that goes over it. So check this out. I'm going to play it again against each of the chords, and you're going to hear how we can come up with something that fits nicely with just this little 4-note pattern. I'm going to play a little bit over the backing track, see what that sounds like. Let's hit it. So here we are. We've restricted ourselves to 2 strings. We have restricted ourselves to 4 notes. We have taken scale patterns and we have thrown them out the door and we have kicked them down the block, and yet we're making music. So what do you think would happen if we took the handcuffs off just a little bit? What if we got crazy and started to utilize 2 cells at a time? We could start to utilize some slides and position shifts, and we could start to come up with licks like this. Throwing a bend in there for good measure. And we could just shift around from cell to cell, playing with the rhythms, playing with the articulations, and coming up with all kinds of great things. So if I was to just slide through these patterns, I can come up with some cool sounding things. I haven't even started to incorporate bends yet. Bends would introduce a whole new dimension to the amount of licks that you could play. Let me run through the chord changes here, and I'm gonna play 2 patterns at a time. I'm gonna try to make it really obvious. You can see what I'm doing, and let's see what that sounds like. I'm gonna give it a run. Let's go. Lastly, we can take off both the handcuffs and the shackles and move up and down the neck between the patterns freely at will. Now you can practice this stuff pretty easily by just moving up and down the patterns. I like to take a little rhythmic pattern, something like this. and just play it up and down the neck and get used to the way that each of the individual cells sound. Now I'm going to play through entire 12-bar blues in D minor, and this time I'm going to move randomly through all 5 cells. I'm still going to play on just 2 strings. I am going to introduce bends and slides to see if I can come up with something really cool to illustrate how effective what we're doing here really is. Let's give it a go. I hope you liked this video. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you're able to take this stuff and immediately change your playing for the better. Thanks for checking this out. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. You keep practicing, and you know I'm going to keep making these videos that are going to help you make sense of soloing. Play hard, have fun. I'll see you soon.